From unsolved mysteries to unexplained phenomena, from comedy gold to relationship fails, Amazon Music's got the most ad-free top podcasts, included with Prime. Because the only thing that should interrupt your listening is, well, nothing. Download the Amazon Music app today.
All right, so you sent this over about Tesla and this possible stock scandal brewing over there.
Right.
And, well, it definitely caught my eye. I mean, anytime you start seeing these kind of headlines about insider sales going on at the same time as, like, very optimistic public pronouncements, especially with a company that's, at high profile as Tesla.
Yeah.
It just makes you want to dig in and figure out what's really going on here.
That's right. So in this deep dive, we're going to do just that. We're going to really try to unpack this situation.
Okay.
Based on what you've brought to us.
Yeah.
Our goal isn't to point fingers or anything like that, but really get to the core of what these allegations actually are and see if we can find any parallels in past corporate meltdowns or crises or whatever to give us a little perspective and then try to figure out what could the potential implications of all of this be moving forward.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it. The material kind of lays out this really stark contrast, right?
Yeah.
Elon Musk is publicly telling Tesla employees to hold on to their stock, painting this rosy picture of the company's future. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, we have these reports of quite a few top executives and board members selling off huge chunks of their own shares.
Yeah, and the dollar amounts that we're talking about here, when you look at these insider sales, they're substantial. Like, for instance, Robin M. Dunholm, who's the chair of the board, she reportedly sold almost $77 million worth of Tesla stock.
Wow.
Kimball Musk, who is Elon Musk's brother, also on the board, he sold about $27.6 million worth.
Yeah.
Then you've got James R. Murdoch, $13.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
CFO Vaibhav Taneja, $4.5 million, and Kathleen Wilson-Thompson, $41.2 million.
Yeah, you start seeing those numbers, and especially alongside the, super optimistic public messaging, it just raises a lot of red flags.
It does.
So, right away you start thinking, okay, is this potential stock manipulation? Yeah, and just to be clear, stock market manipulation can take a lot of different forms. Making false or misleading statements to kind of pump up the price of a stock, or engaging in trading practices that create this false impression of market activity. Or is there something else going on? I mean, some other form of financial misconduct.
Yeah.
Where folks with inside information are essentially profiting in a way that really disadvantages the public.
That's right. And these questions of misconduct, they're so serious. And to really grasp how serious they are, it's helpful to look at some historical parallels. And what immediately comes to mind is the Enron scandal.
Oh, yeah.
Which is such a huge, event in corporate history.
Right. For those who aren't familiar, Enron was this massive giant in the energy and commodities trading world.
Yeah.
They were really praised for this innovative business model.
Right. Yeah. They were like Wall Street darlings for a long time.
Totally. Mm-hmm. But as we all found out later, that glossy image they projected was hiding a very different reality.
Totally different. Because Enron was actually built on this foundation of massive fraudulent accounting practices. They were using these super complicated financial arrangements to basically hide enormous amounts of debt and make it look like they had these rapidly growing profits.
Yeah, it was all smoke and mirrors.
It was a facade, a total facade.
So, and what's really striking is that, just like what we're seeing with Tesla now, the material says that Enron's top executives were busy unloading their own stock holdings while they were out there publicly assuring everyone, their employees and investors, that the company was in fantastic shape and the future was bright.
Yeah. It's a chilling echo.
Yeah.
Reports showed how these Enron insiders, they made tons of money while the company's stock price was steadily declining. And the really tragic part of the Enron story is how it affected their employees. So many of them had put their entire retirement savings into Enron stock.
Right through their 401ks.
Yes, often through 401k plans.
Yeah.
And they were encouraged to do that.
Right.
By the company.
Yeah, and of course, when Enron went bankrupt in 2001, they lost everything.
They were left with nothing.
It's a really stark reminder of the human cost.
Absolutely.
When things go wrong at the top.
Absolutely. And the parallels to the Tesla situation, based on what we're reading here, are pretty striking.
They are.
You've got Musk with this optimistic outlook.
Right.
while these insiders are selling their stock, I mean, it really does mirror that same pattern of deception that we saw with Enron.
Totally. Okay, so let's move on to this other really big red flag that the material points out.
Okay.
This major discrepancy in Tesla's reported capital expenditures.
Okay.
So Tesla says that they spent $6.3 billion on property and equipment.
Yeah.
Now, just to be clear, capital expenditures, those are the funds that companies use to buy, upgrade, and maintain physical assets, like factories and machinery. However, their balance sheet shows only a $4.9 billion increase in the value of those assets.
So we've got a $1.4 billion gap.
Right.
That's not really explained.
Exactly. And understandably, financial analysts and auditors are starting to ask some questions. Because, unexplained discrepancies like that can sometimes point to irregularities in accounting practices or even undisclosed liabilities, debts and obligations that aren't being fully reported. So it makes you think about, other major financial scandals like Wirecard in Germany or Long Top Financial in China.
Oh, yeah.
Where it turns out these companies were presenting this image of, strong cash flow.
Right.
And they were raising tons of capital.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, they were allegedly hiding massive losses through these really complex accounting tricks.
Right. It's all about keeping up appearances.
Yeah, maintaining this illusion of financial health when in reality, things aren't so rosy.
Exactly.
So, and then there's this other odd thing that the material brings up, that Tesla recently raised $6 billion in debt while sitting on a reported $37 billion in cash reserves.
Right. So that begs the question.
Right.
Why, if the company is in such great financial shape, why would they need to take on more debt?
Exactly. And that kind of mismatch between their reported financial strength and their actual actions is definitely feeding these suspicions that something might be amiss.
Yeah, there's got to be more to the story.
Right. So all of this creates this really worrying situation.
Absolutely.
Especially for the people who are most directly affected.
Yeah.
The employees and the investors.
Right.
And the material, rightfully highlights the vulnerability of Tesla employees.
Absolutely.
Who are receiving stock options as part of their compensation.
Yeah.
Because they're basically in the same boat as those Enron employees who were, heavily encouraged to put their money into company stock. I mean, if Tesla's stock price keeps dropping, or if solid evidence of financial wrongdoing comes out, these employees could see the value of their stock options just evaporate.
And that could wipe out a huge chunk of their savings and financial security.
Absolutely. And then there's the investors.
Yeah.
The material mentions this growing lack of confidence even among the retail investors who have been, very actively trading Tesla stock. Tesla's been a really popular stock with retail investors.
Yeah, a lot of people have been trying to buy the dip.
Exactly. Hoping that the price will bounce back.
Hoping for a rebound.
But if these allegations of financial shenanigans and stock manipulation turn out to be true, that rebound may never happen.
And those folks could lose a lot of money.
Yeah, and the comments from that Facebook thread that you included in the material, where people were discussing the Tesla situation and drawing comparisons to Enron.
Yeah.
I mean, those personal accounts were really powerful.
They were.
Like Laura Maruzic talked about how pushy Enron's sales tactics were.
Yeah.
Christine Bollinger mentioned the intense pressure that Enron employees felt to invest their entire 401ks in company stock.
Right. Which in hindsight was so risky.
Super risky. And then you have Joanne Hyde talking about someone she knew who lost everything in the Enron collapse.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it really underscores the human toll of these corporate meltdowns.
Totally. Diana Tutusta, you also commented that she felt betrayed by these reports of insiders selling at Tesla.
Yeah.
And Annette Mertens directly mentioned people losing their retirements.
And Sarah Elkins brought up the fact that Enron actually had a female whistleblower.
Oh, yeah.
Who tried to sound the alarm early on.
Wow.
And she also pointed out that, Elon Musk's own brother has also been selling Tesla stock.
Right.
And then finally, Susan Hanley shared how she was personally affected by Enron's collapse. So, these aren't just abstract financial issues playing out on a spreadsheet.
Right.
These have real consequences for people's lives.
Real human impact.
Yeah, their livelihoods and, their long-term financial security.
Absolutely.
So it's getting serious. And
It is.
according to what you sent over, the regulatory authorities are starting to take notice.
Right.
The SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is reportedly opening an investigation into Tesla's financial disclosures
Yeah.
and all this recent insider trading.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, if the SEC finds evidence that Tesla misled investors
Right.
or that illegal insider trading took place,
Yeah.
the company could be facing some really hefty fines and legal actions.
Oh, yeah. That's the SEC's job,
Right,
to
right,
protect
right.
investors and make sure that the markets are fair.
Right. And the material you sent me even suggests that there could be, more serious repercussions,
Mm-hmm.
drawing a direct line to the Enron case,
Mm.
where some of the top execs,
Yeah.
like Jeffrey Skilling, ended up facing criminal charges
Right.
and serving lengthy prison sentences
Yeah.
for their roles in that whole fraud.
It makes you wonder if the same thing could happen to Tesla's leadership if they uncover evidence of fraudulent activity.
And even beyond the possibility of, regulatory action,
Mm-hmm.
Tesla could be hit with a wave of shareholder lawsuits
Yeah.
and increased pressure on the board of directors to do something.
Right.
And if it turns out that their financial health is actually a lot worse than they've been letting on,
Mm-hmm.
their ability to, raise capital to fund all of their ambitious growth plans could be in jeopardy.
It could all come crashing down.
Yeah. So where does this leave Tesla? The picture that emerges from all of this is one of huge uncertainty.
Absolutely. I think this whole stock scandal has created a major turning point for Elon Musk and the company's leadership.
Right.
The material kind of lays out two very different potential paths.
Okay.
One is that, Tesla manages to address these financial concerns. They start being more transparent in their reporting,
Right.
and they ultimately rebuild that trust with investors.
Yeah, but then there's that other more concerning possibility.
Yeah.
That these allegations of insider trading and financial mismanagement are proven true.
Right.
And in that case,
Yeah.
Tesla could be looking at a significant and long-lasting decline in their stock price,
Mm-hmm.
and worst case scenario, even bankruptcy.
Yeah. And that brings us back to the main lesson from the Enron debacle,
Right.
which is the catastrophic consequences that can unfold.
Yeah.
When personal greed and enrichment are put ahead of the interests of shareholders and employees.
Yeah, it really feels like a cautionary tale that Tesla may be repeating.
Yeah. And, corporate history is full of examples of companies that seemed untouchable right up until the moment they imploded.
Right.
And it's often because those underlying problems, if they're not dealt with openly and honestly,
Right.
they can eat away at the very core of even the most, innovative and celebrated companies.
Yeah, so you can see the situation that you flagged for us.
Mm-hmm.
It raises some really big questions about the financial integrity and ethical practices at, one of the most closely watched companies in the world.
It does. And it really makes you think about, given this long history of corporate scandals
Right.
and the potential for these events to have widespread financial impact,
Mm-hmm.
what responsibility do individual investors and employees have to really scrutinize the information they're getting from company leaders?
Right.
Maybe be a little more skeptical.
Yeah, maybe not. Just take things at face value.
Exactly.
Well, this has been really insightful.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you breaking this down
Absolutely.
for us.
Happy to do it.
And to our listeners,
Yeah.
we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
Yeah. Lots to think about.
And as always, do your own research,
Mm-hmm.
stay informed, and until next time, stay vigilant.
Stay vigilant.